with your go-to MTGO grinders, Harry13, and my regular co-host, Claudio. How you
What's up,
doing, Claudio?
Martin? How are you doing? I'm doing fine. It has been a
Yeah,
while.
yeah, it's been a while. We just had stuff to do, you know. Yeah, good. We both had good weekends on the MTGO front, so we're happy to talk about that. But we'll be bringing you all overviews of what's happened over the past few weeks. Primarily the showcase, the Super Qualifier top eight, and the challenges of this weekend. And we'll just basically the usual. We'll discuss what's happened, where the metagame is, and where we think it's going to go from here. So yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that we held off on doing the podcast last week because there was a ban. Like Lurrus got banned, and we thought it was best to wait and see where things are going to settle because it was a pretty big ban.
Yeah, it
The
was huge.
yeah. All
It's
right,
huge.
so let's see here. We are going to start with this Super PTQ that happened
Yep.
on the end of last month.
Yep. And yeah, it was won by Mono Red Aggro,
Yeah,
which isn't isn't a massive surprise to me. Like I feel like the deck's quite lean,
I think
quite
that
well built.
a lot of people that like play its burn just defaulted back to this, which is kind of a hybrid between Chunky Red and the more lower to the ground decks.
Yeah, I always felt like the lower to the ground chonky red decks were better. Um,
Mm.
I feel like the kind of ones that went like bigger just suffered from just getting beat. There's so many decks that can just go over like mid range, like Nev to be, Nev, and yeah, there's just like I feel like blue white control would take care
Chew
of that
up
deck
the
pretty
a
easily.
Chunky Red
Yeah,
deck. Right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
so pretty standard. I would say like most cards you would expect to see. The new inclusion is the new Saga.
yeah, Kumano faces Kakazan. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think this card's really good. You basically it basically just gives you more ways to trigger like your spectacle payoff cards, like lay up the stage and skewer the critics. It's 1 mana, so it's super efficient. And if you play it turn one, you ping them for damage, make your like 1/3
Creature.
prowess creatures a bit bigger, and then
Yeah.
you create a
I
big
think this is
creature.
pretty powerful with like Eidolon. If you play this on turn one and you make your Eidolon a 3/3 on turn two, it's
Yeah,
going to make like for if you're playing against Phoenix, instead of they killing this with a shock, they're going to take 4 damage at the very least.
yeah, exactly,
So it's a
exactly.
good combo. And the flip side of this is also pretty relevant. It makes all your burn spells into magma sprays.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And just having a 2/2 for haste on turn three is not the worst. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a nice card, and yeah, the winner managed to maximize the value and get the dub. So congrats to them.
Yeah, I think this is
Um,
going to be like the default aggro deck that you see now.
yeah,
As far
yeah,
as
me too,
it's
me too.
pretty solid.
Yeah,
Okay, so moving on second place we have Good Cut Pink Phoenix.
I love Goldicat. He's so 25 head man. Like, there's so many cards in here that are just sick. Like he decided to play Bone Crusher Giant, 2 copies. Um,
No Finny Dice as
no thing in
well.
the ice. But I like the Bone Crusher because like it gives you some sort of alternative, like because you are very threat light, without the thing in the ice. But the Bone Crusher, like having like a very relevant like kill spell with a 4/3 attached to it is really nice. It's all about getting the chip damage in, so it's like dealing 2 damage, opponent taking 2 damage, trying to kill it, and then it makes like your Hall of the Storm Giants in the late game more relevant than they already are. And then obviously with the Phoenixes as well, you're just getting so much chip damage, and then the temporal trespasses become really dangerous, more dangerous than they normally are.
Yeah.
And he can also like, is he playing? Yeah, he's playing Galvanic Iteration, so you can stomp for 4 damage if you want as well, if you decide to do that. And then in the board, he's playing Tablet of the Guilds. That's quite a wild choice. And
I think this is a pretty good card against the red decks
yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a nice one. I think it's a nice inclusion.
Yeah, it's very I didn't even know this card existed. I think it's
Yeah,
pretty reminiscent of something like Dragon's Claw.
Yeah, because like the issue with blue red is you have very little access to life gain. So
Mhm.
this card is super nice to have access to just in case. Because like against like the red decks, a lot of the time is they especially without thing in this, you don't really have like a super fast clock to like hit them twice to win kind of thing. So like having access to this is quite nice against those decks. And then another nice inclusion was like the 4 copies of Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce is like really nice at the moment, especially if there's a lot of blue white. There's nothing worse than playing Phoenix and then your opponent like just tapping out for Wandering Emperor, and you're
Mhm.
just staring at these like mystical disputes, and you can't do anything about it, and it just eats your Phoenix, or like especially as threat light as this deck is. So the Spell Pierce are really nice, and you can also choose to bring them in against the red decks as well if you so wish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this list a lot.
Pretty
It's really nice.
pretty innovative list here,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
think a lot of the choices are like very metagame dependent. I think
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
this that he's doing here is very exploitable, which
yeah,
is
yeah.
something that I did with my Niv list that I did pretty well
And
this weekend. We're going to
and
talk about that later. Like playing for a spell pierce and no mystical dispute is something that is pretty exploitable, for
yeah,
example.
but this is one thing that rewards like innovation, right? Like because like
Yeah, like
you're playing it
mhm.
for that weekend. You're not playing that. Like this is where you need to be careful as Magic players and like copying lists
Yeah,
like
you need
this.
to keep moving. You know,
Yeah,
you need to see like, oh, he's playing for a spell pierce, but this must be for a reason. Is this going to be good every time? Probably not. Like,
yeah, yeah, and that's where sometimes you get punished for like net deck. Well, obviously you net deck like everyone net decks, but like when you don't like question the card choices and you just blindly net deck and say you pick up this deck 2 weeks later, it might just be awful because it's a known quantity. People know that you've got the spell pierce on the board. One of the massive advantages to this is people didn't know
mm-hmm.
you'd be playing spell pierce. You know what I mean? So like that influences a lot of decisions opponents make. So like if you hold up one blue mana and no one knows about spell pierce and they just slam the Wandering Emperor, you play your spell pierce, that's massive. Probably
Mm-hmm.
swings the game. But like
Yep.
now that spell pierce is a known quantity, that changes your opponent's decisions and it has a cascading effect on the match. So you need to think about that when you're what.
Yeah, cards like this lose a lot of value when people know about them. So
Yeah.
yeah, just as you said, I think you put it very well. This is really good when it's a surprise. Otherwise,
Yeah, it's like Settle the Wreckage. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. Like Settle the Wreckage is a classic example of that. Like Settle the Wreckage gets better and better when no one expects anyone to play Settle the Wreckage. Um, but as soon as Settle the Wreckage gets played again, its stock plummets because it's so easy to play around.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And then in third place, unfortunately, for them because they didn't get. Oh no, they were already qualified. But Rastav's such a house, man. Like,
Yeah.
um, I think I went from like having quite even like win and loss distributions with Rastav to just getting beat every time by him. He's so good, such a good Magic player. Um, they came third with the red black. Um,
Deck,
yeah,
sacrifice
which
deck.
is a solid deck,
Yeah, I
and
was
this
playing
list
around
looks
with
very
this
good.
deck a little bit this weekend, and
Hmm.
yeah, the deck is pretty good against creatures, but I didn't feel very good playing against other mid-range strategies.
Yeah, I think it's good against creature decks. It's good against control. It's kind of like vampires in that sense, like as in like you're good against aggro and you're good against like specifically control, but you're probably a dog to like a lot of the other mid range strategies and like
Even
stuff like
against
Lotus.
Phoenix, I didn't feel great. Cause like I thought my clock was slow. I didn't have the right tools to disrupt them.
Yeah, maybe we're just not as good
But
as the
I
rest
think
of
this deck
them.
is yeah, probably. But this deck
Yeah,
is I think this deck is pretty good, but it has some polarizing matchups. Like if you get like you're a cat open deck, so if you do play against a creature deck, you're going to destroy them.
yeah.
But yeah, pretty solid deck. I like the deck survived the Lurrus ban. This deck started seeing play after the Lurrus
Mm.
ban happened.
Yeah.
People made some changes to the deck list, and the deck survived in some form,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So in fourth place you've got Daniel Akos. Someone I don't know who
Another crusher.
yeah, I don't know who they are. Like they don't have a Twitter presence, but they just always seem to do, and they pretty much play the exact same like list
Same
every
list,
time.
yeah. That is a charm.
I'm convinced that's the only cards they own on Magic Online. Because the list is pretty much exactly the same. I think the only difference they made is they've taken out the Is It charms, right? Which is crazy because like, oh no,
There's
they
like
haven't.
one.
What
There's
am I
like
talking
one
about?
there. Yeah,
They play
they're
one.
splitting this with
So
upgrades.
yeah, so Daniel Akos always plays one negate, one Is It charm main. They've been recently playing like one Abrade main, one Sweltering Suns. It's always Sweltering Suns, and I don't think they've made any changes in the board. I think they've maybe included an Alpine Moon, a Borrower, maybe. But yeah,
Yeah,
this
there's like the Pyro Monsters as well that has been a trend recently of playing Pyro
yeah,
Monster in the sideboards of
but it was
Phoenix.
Daniel Akos that kind of started that, and he's been playing it ever since. They've been playing it ever since. So, um, yeah, Daniel
Yeah,
Akos will pretty much play 70 out of the 75 cards the same like every weekend. So well played. I mean, they do it well. I played them once in the Phoenix Mirror and I get absolutely destroyed. So fair play to them. They know the deck very well and they get rewarded.
yep.
So
Okay,
fifth,
so in fifth place you have Piper. She was
yeah,
playing Lotus Field. I think this is like
stop.
the standard list now.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's playing the master. It's playing the Behold the
Beyond.
Beyond Dark Petition build, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you basically just go Emergent Ultimatum with one blue floating, get Omniscience, Behold the Beyond, and Dark Petition. Your opponent's supposed to put Omniscience back into the deck. You Behold the Beyond first, and you get like uh, Balaged Recovery, Hidden Strings, and then you Dark Petition for Omniscience, I believe. And then I'm pretty sure you're just supposed to Balaged Recovery the Emergent Ultimatum again. Um, and I think you get like Mastermind's Acquisition, some other cards, can't remember, but that's how
Yeah,
you win.
basically, if you cast in this, if you cast Automaton with a blue floating and you get like the three cards you mentioned, it's going to chain into like no matter what card you give them back, it's going to chain it into a win. So
Yeah,
it's deterministic. Um, yeah, I think that this has been a thing for a while now.
yeah,
The sideboard has changed a little bit because of the how much blight control is in play right now. People are playing a lot of cards for that matchup, like the Sphinx of the Final Word and Thought Destruction.
yeah. And I'm guessing March of the Swirling Mist is for like in case you play against Ascendancy, but for aggro, I'm not quite sure why they're there for.
Uh, I think I figured out why people are playing this card is for like when you're playing against hate bear creatures like Eidolon, so you don't actually need to kill them.
Oh,
Like
okay,
you can
okay,
phase out the creature and you can go off. You
right,
can do this
okay.
from yeah, and you can do this for multiple creatures, so it like takes care of all of them in
Okay,
a turn.
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
it's a pretty smart. It took me a while to figure out why they were playing this card, but after seeing it, how it plays in those matchups, it's like pretty good. You can phase out a Winota as well to save yourself.
Yeah, phasing out Winota is kind of nice as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not a bad use of
the
the card.
and for the record, this super qualifier top eight was absolutely stacked.
Yeah,
Um, Piper
Salvato,
Powell, Piper Powell was very good.
very
Louis
good play.
Salvato is Salvato. Um, they were also on the Yorion blue white control deck, which I'm
Yeah,
not
we're not
convinced.
fans, right? We're not
Yeah, I'm
fans
not
of this.
convinced. I think like diluting your counter suite is not the best idea, but like I can understand like because like the reason to play Yorion in modern, right, is because Solitude. Like you just have like so many like amazing cards that you a lot of the time you'll just bring Yorion to hand to pitch to Solitude, and because it's free, so you can do that. But like in Pioneer, you don't really have that. Of course, you have March of the Otherworldly Light, but it's not. You don't really want to pitch a Yorion for that. You obviously get to play cards like Omen of the Sea, which you can use like Yorion for value. But the issue for me is like, yeah, you're diluting your counter suite heavily, and 80 cards is so inconsistent.
I think this only makes sense if you're expecting a lot of the mirror, then you want to play Jordan because you're going to have more stuff to
Cards.
do.
Yeah. Agreed. But
You
like
don't
this,
get that much worse than the regular blue white against the other decks, but you get worse. And when you're playing deck like this, if you let something slip through, sometimes you can just
especially against aggro, I feel like it's so much worse against aggro.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just so yeah.
But there's nothing super crazy here. You mostly see more copies of the cards you were already playing the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Besides Onium of the Sea, I think it's a card that you're only going to see here. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
cards you see in the regular blue white control deck, like a bunch of Wraths, for the Fed, for Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think this is more a question of he was probably expecting to play against a lot of mirror matches, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were trying out the Yorion deck after it won one of the events recently. I think it was the Showcase Challenge. Yeah, I seen a lot of it in leagues initially, but it's kind of died down. One thing I've noticed is leagues. There's so much more people playing now. There's like nearly 700 active players. It's tripled
Yeah,
in
a lot of things
size.
happened before our last podcast, right? So Wizards
Yeah.
actually announced that the Pro Tour is coming back, and the first format for the Pro Tour is going to be Pioneer,
Yeah.
and that made interest for the format spike.
Yeah.
And yeah, I noticed that a lot. Like the effect on Magic Online was instantaneous.
Yeah, and
The league is much bigger, and the challenges are much bigger as well.
yeah, and it's insane, right? Because like I'm going to be honest, did you see this coming? Because I didn't. I never thought they would give Pioneer the light of day to this extent. Like I felt like Pioneer was going to be like Legacy, where they would like if they bring back Grand
Occasionally
Prix.
do something, yeah.
Yeah, if they bring back Grand Prix, they'd be like, oh, we're going to have a Pioneer Grand Prix. But I feel like they've just made it the premier format right now, right? Because it's for the Pro Tour. So this is this is great for us because we're pioneer maxis. We're like, this is pretty much the only format we play on a regular basis. Obviously, we play like some other formats from time to time, but like, yeah, this is amazing. And
Yeah.
for all you listeners who want to get more information, you know where to go. Go to the TAC team, subscribe to the Patreon, and we provide content all the time with Pioneer. And we've always got our ears to ground on the metagame. So shameless
Cool.
shell, but it's the TAC team podcast, so you know.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right. It's probably
so
the best place to get real content about people that actually do well in events and know what they're talking about. So
yeah, exactly. We
you're
also
the
both do,
yeah.
yeah.
All
Um,
right. So let's see here.
so we've got the Master Zack attack
The Zack
on.
attack. The kid can't be stopped. No.
I actually really like this build. I think this is potentially better than the other build. I think having Karn gives you.
I'm not sure I understand.
Sorry about that. That was my Siri on my phone going off for some reason.
Hmm.
So I think Karn is a really nice inclusion. I think it's just like it fits in the deck really well, and it just allows you to go slightly over the top. Like remember we were talking about how like we felt this deck would be bad against other mid-range strategies. I feel like Karn gives you that opportunity to just go slightly over the top, especially with cards like Bolus the Citadel. It also allows you to play Companion as well. It allows you to play Gigantha. Obviously, the real downside is not having access to Meat Hook Massacre, but maybe they were thinking like
I think
Meat Hook.
Midhook Massacre is only very good in the mirror, but Karn is
Yeah,
also very good in the mirror.
well, I think Karn's more impactful, right? Because it just shuts everything down.
Yeah. So I think
So
they're kind of you don't lose that much by losing the Midhook Massacre.
yeah, but
Just bonus.
I think Karn's a great addition, and I really like this build. I
I
might
think
even
this is just like what we saw with the Giant Food decks.
yeah.
When it was time to tech for the mirror, they went to Karn.
Yeah, but it also gives you a chance of being able to beat Lotus as well. I think, like, I feel like the other deck just kind of like Niv just kind of basically folds to Lotus, whereas this gives you like a fighting chance against it. Also against like Phoenix as well, right? Because you just like hold Tormod's crypt over them, and it's actually kind of, especially if they're not playing Thing in the ice, right? It's actually quite difficult for them. Um, so I think this gives you a better Phoenix matchup, but definitely a
Oh,
better Phoenix
there's
matchup.
also, are they playing Godfather statue? Oh, they're not.
I don't believe so, but I don't think you need it, to be honest, because you're not like very intense on mana, right? So, but they are playing
I mean,
Bolas'
I
Citadel.
mean, yeah, they're playing both. So I think it's a pretty good card to have. I always kind of like having it, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, overall, I like this. I like
yeah.
this build a lot.
Okay, so we to finish it off in this place we have the black red mid range deck.
I
I
think we
think
both.
yeah, I was going to touch on that a little bit. I always uh said that this deck was a meme. I never liked it,
Yeah,
but I think more and more this deck is actually becoming good. I think like Fable of the Mirror Breaker is a big piece in that.
yeah. I think before Fable came out, I was just like, "What's the point?" But now I'm kind of like, I think this is kind of what like chunky red, like the bigger versions, want to be, but can't be because they're only in red. Um, I think again, like I'm not a massive fan of this deck. Um, I remember that player Showtime um kind of got annoyed at me for like questioning why he played the deck, but like it's just the Mirror Breaker definitely helps. It's definitely another really nice mid range card to smooth the curve a bit.
Yeah,
Um,
there's something to be said that, like because this has some aggressive starts, so you don't like you're not dead to that's like Lotus Fields for example.
yeah,
You get a curve of creatures, you play some discard spells, and you can't kill them. And like
yeah,
Fable helps you loot away your discard, like your fatal pushes against blue white. It's a pretty good threat. So
yeah.
I yeah.
I like having the discard outlet as well as having two creatures that are good in their own right. Like making a treasure. Because of that, I would like to maybe get a little bit greedier and play like maybe an Angrath on the board. I don't think that would hurt. Um,
This is not playing it, but I saw that a lot of people playing Stormbreath Dragon in this deck now because of how good it is against blue white. Like it's
yeah,
bad against the
Stormbreath is
counters.
really good.
It's bad against the counter spells, but it's very good against the removal spells.
Yeah, Stormbreath would be pretty sick actually. I didn't
Yeah,
even think about
and
that.
you can play it kind of early because of the Fable. It's pretty sick to copy as well with Kiki.
Oh my god. Yeah, true. Stormbreath
Yeah,
Dragon making a comeback.
I think that definitely this deck is way more respectable now than it was before. I would not say that this deck is like a bad choice per
Yeah.
se. If you like playing this style of deck, I think it's pretty good
Yeah.
overall.
So
Let's move
so
on.
that was the top eight. So let's go on to the challenges, yeah?
Yeah, let's go over the challenges here that happened this week.
So on Saturday, the winner was,
Yeah,
well, just
the deck we're just talking about.
black red midrange.
Yep,
Yep, same list. Same
timeless.
list. So yeah, I think yeah, I'm gonna give the deck more respect. I mean, I've been like I was like making, and I think it was right. I think we were right to make fun of it at the time because it generally wasn't that good, and I think it is better now. And
Yeah,
I
I think
think
this card
that's
made a lot of
yeah,
difference to the deck.
Fable of the Mirror Breaker's definitely been a big inclusion to the deck, and I think it made the deck strictly tier two to tier one. I think it's tier one now. I think
Yeah.
it's. I don't think it's like. I think it's tier one to tier 1.5. I don't think it's. I don't think it's close to being the best deck in the format, but I think it's definitely a top eight, right? 5 to 8. Like,
Yeah, it's like a totally reasonable deck to play, I would say.
yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
might even give it a spin. So we've got your boy Kane Reinhardt, second place, playing what he loves to play, Lotus. One of my friends. The amazing thing about the PT coming back is like one of my good friends from Scotland, from Glasgow, my local area, and basically reached out to me asking for Magic Online tickets, and I was like, oh, he's back. He was a very good player back in. Uh, I think he qualified for the PT in the old RP2 system with the Sahili Ray cat when it was in standard, the four color version. Um, Very respectable, good player. So I'm glad to have him back in the streets. And this is the deck he's picking up.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty good deck.
Yeah, he likes playing like ad nauseum and stuff, so makes sense. I think Lotus is one of the best decks in the format, and I think what I would say though is I wouldn't play it in Pioneer Leagues. I think you're just gonna have a bad time. You're just gonna get rolled by Winota and probably Mono Red. But in Premier level events, I would definitely pick this up.
Yeah,
I'm
this
Mhm.
deck excels against like Phoenix and the other mid-range decks and like against slow decks basically. And you're
Yeah,
decent against blue whites, but you're pretty weak against the aggressive decks.
yeah. So it's very polarizing, but like if you think that red aggro is bad in the format, then it makes sense to play this, right? You just hope to dodge aggro in the early rounds and play against the decks that are doing well. That's the kind of theory behind it. Um, yeah. The one thing I would say about it is it went from having like a really good blue white matchup to having like a pretty close to even blue white matchup. Like that's the only hesitation I have with the deck. I think like in the older days of Pioneer, like when you got paired against blue white, if you're blue white and you get paired against this, you were like, can't win, just cannot win. I just don't have enough time. But now with like the Wandering Emperor and stuff, and I think you just feel a lot more comfortable playing against
Yeah,
this deck.
I played blue white in the PTQ, and I think that like this matchup is favorable for blue white now.
Yeah,
Like the cards that they have in their sideboard are pretty beatable. Like Sphinx is beatable, Toss Distortion is beatable. So
yeah,
if you plan around it, I think it's a good matchup. But if you don't, they're going to murder you with these two cards.
yeah,
But like you can see them coming for most parts.
yeah. Agreed, agreed. So, yep,
Uh,
congrats to Kane for getting to the finals. Good job.
Third
Third
place
place,
we have a nota here. I think this was the list that Canister was trying out because I recognize the list because of the weird sideboard Planeswalkers.
yeah. I like the Thalia Garnet Thraben. I think that's a really nice one to have in the deck. Um, plus the 4 copies of Voice. Winota is just going to Winota. I mean, I think the deck's very good. I think it's like one of the best decks in the format. Personally, I don't think is it the best deck. I don't know. I think it gets beaten by the best deck in the format. That's one of the main issues with playing this deck. But yeah, I mean, it's just everywhere in Pioneer leagues, everywhere. Like like if you go through one league without playing this deck twice, then
Yeah, it's that deck of
something is
choice
wrong.
to like for people that are trying out the format, I think, and for grinders because it's like you play pretty fast leagues.
Yeah, I think yeah, the
Yeah.
decks.
So this deck is
It's
very overrepresented in leagues, I would
yeah,
say.
yeah. I don't think it's represented more than it should be. I think it deserves its fair share of the pie, like proportionately. Um, I don't think the deck's kind of miserable to play against sometimes as well. Like especially if you're playing like the decks that Claudio and I have been playing recently, where you're playing like a good few tap lands. Sometimes they just play like Llanowar Elf into Prosperous Innkeeper into Winota, and you're just like,
Yeah,
and they hit the
you
six
definitely
six, and you're
need
like,
plans to catch up to this deck if you're playing some kind of reactive or mid-range deck. Like
yeah, yeah,
if you're like you need to be playing sweepers, cards to catch up, and I think the if you are prepared, this deck's not that scary. Like it is, but like it's not like unbeatable or anything.
it dies to Supreme Verdict. Absolutely gets destroyed by Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, I don't think the deck is very good against blue eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I wouldn't play this into a field of Phoenix and Blue White, but like if you feel like people are playing decks that are not those two decks, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I don't see anyone playing Graph the Griff's Cage at the moment as well. Like that's a pretty good card against the strategy.
Yeah, especially because they're not really playing the Skyclave apparition anymore. So you definitely have like I definitely think Grafdigger's Cage is in a better spot now than it was previously because Brutal Cathar kind of took over Skyclave apparition.
Hmm.
Previously, like playing Grafdigger's Cage kind of felt like touching, and it's also good. It's also in a good position for me playing the deck that I played on Sunday I took note of that. The Skyclave apparition wasn't played that much, and we'll discuss that later on in the show.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Like Cage is not going to win you the game against this deck because they have a good fair plan, but it's going to give you time to breathe and like actually try to do what they're trying to do. So if you're having trouble with this, consider Cage for your deck.
Yep.
Okay, so in first place we have the Rakdos mid-range deck
Mid-range.
again.
Yep.
Think
Again,
pretty much the same, exactly same list. So this seems to be working for them.
Yep. Yep. Another good thing I've noticed for Phoenix players as well is people are going down on goal blanks. There's less goal blanks being played at the moment. Even with the Anvil deck, they're playing like 0 copies of it. So take note, Phoenix players, or people who want to use like Dig for Time and Treasure Cruise. Your stock might be going up slightly because they're trying to like dilute and focus on a wider field. So
I
that's
think
something I would
just
take
people are
note.
playing more Lurrus, right? Because it's like target discard is better against Blue Eye Control and Lotus Field than Go Blank.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
hit like the counter spell or the payoff for Lotus, so this is better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're pretty prepared against Lotus Field. They're playing 3 Dungeon
Mhm.
Spheres, so alright.
Yeah. Now, fifth place is an interesting one that we're going to discuss because this deck has been putting up numbers quite recently. It's the blue-red control deck, which is basically trying to capitalize off of Narset and Days Undoing combo and playing a top end, which involves it's playing like a package of 4 Thing Nice, 3 Bone Crusher Giant, and 2 Nib Mizzet Perun, a card we've not seen in a while in Pioneer. It used to be a sideboard card of choice for Lotus. It's not anymore, but now it's seeing play in this this interesting blue-red build. What do you think of it, Claudio?
Pretty interesting because I think this deck is pretty good against creatures, but you're not that good against anything else. Because like you're playing a bunch of shocks and thingy guys, like that's going to be pretty difficult for a creature deck to beat. Like Winota, I imagine this road just rolls in Winota, for example. And you're hoping to beat the other decks with Narset basically. It's going to work sometimes, but I am not a fan of this combo.
Yeah, so the thing to bear in mind, right? Like, if you play Days Undoing with Narset and your opponent has any interaction for the Narset, you kind of just lose on the spot. In my opinion, like you tapping out when you give your opponent 7 cards.
Hand, right? Yeah.
And what you're going to do this turn 4 at the earliest, but more than likely turn 6 or 7. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I understand why this deck could be decent if you're not prepared. So like the main thing about this deck, the equity that it gains is people for a reasonable amount of time in the match will think you're on Phoenix, and you can basically kind of get them game 1. But you have to bear in mind, like people are going to have like good plans for this post board, and the deck I was playing, this happened to me quite a few times where I would just lose game 1, but then like as soon as I realized what they were doing, then I won both the post board games.
Yeah, it's much like the spell pierce in the Phoenix sideboard. It's going to get you, but it's only going to get you one time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but nonetheless, shout out to Dio Ferreira because I think they've been pioneering this deck in Pioneer. And I've kind of seen their Twitter. They've been posting about it a few times. Like I think like fair play. I really like the innovation here.
Yeah, in the end, it's just a bunch of good cards. Like for example, if people started playing around your Days Undoing and stuff, you could just cut this and play like Track Typhoons or something.
Yeah, and also you could consider playing like Dig for Time over the Treasure Cruises as well. If you suspect like more kind of these matchups to come up.
Now that you say that, I'm not sure why they're not doing it.
Yeah, I think Dig for Time is better in my opinion. Like if you're a combo deck, you kind of want to play Dig for Time unless.
This is like a control deck, right? So
yeah,
the same
and
thing
also,
applies, I would say.
Yeah, and I think like you want to play at instant speed, and and if you suspect the mirror to be popular for whatever reason, then Dig for Time gets a lot better. Post board's kind of like a Phoenix build. Our Devastation's interesting. But yeah, shout out to
Not sure what
Dio
they're
Ferreira
thinking
again.
about with this, but you should play Burn Down the House instead of or Devastation. It's strictly better, I think.
Yeah, burn down the house. Agreed.
All right. So in sixth place we have Phoenix.
Lenny.
I think this is the good cut lists. Right?
Yeah, so Lenny's just a generally good player, right? I think they just put up results quite a lot. I can't remember who they are. I think they're a Brazilian player, or they're either Brazilian or Italian or something like that. They're not like, I've played against them a few times in my time. Yeah, nothing really to say about this. This is just Guildacat's list.
Yep.
With an extra tablet of the guilds on the board, which makes sense. Guess you want to see that more often. Oh,
This was a spicy one.
John
I have not
Coco.
seen this deck for a while.
So I tried this. Remember, I tried this quite recently because I thought it might be like reasonably well positioned. I kind of got a bit. I didn't really get very far in the leagues. Think it got paired into a lot of like other mid-range decks that just kind of were a bit more powerful. But I wouldn't disregard this deck. So Jund Collected Company with the Bolas the Citadel top end, like I really like this strategy. There is definitely a time and place where this deck can be good.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad
No
to
one's
see it.
playing. No, like I said, no one's playing a Figures Cage. No one's playing a Sharn at the moment. So
Yeah, it's a good
but
time to be playing.
that could change at any point.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
this is like a proven strategy that just has been absent for the most part. But
Yeah.
this has done very well in the past.
Mhm. And then last but not
Much like
least,
the deck I'm playing, Falling from
sneaking.
Grace.
Did you sneak into top 8 this one?
Not this one.
So Claudio came in 8th place on Saturday. Congrats to Claudio. Playing well what Claudio plays best, top decking Niv Mizzet or Bring to Light from the top of his deck. Yeah, wanna go for the build.
Yeah, this is like pretty similar to what I have been playing. Now I kinda am a Celestus believer. This card has been pretty good.
Yeah, I like the card.
Especially if you're playing against a bunch of blue white, the looting ability and controlling the day night cycle comes up a lot, so it's pretty valuable. I'm back to playing Slaughter games. I think the card is pretty good now, especially because of Phoenix being so threat light.
I
It's
think
not
so as well. I
like
agree.
it's pretty exploitable for this deck that you can just make just remove all the threats from their deck so they can't actually kill you. This is also good against blue white. You get to name to fed your like a counter spell, so you get to resolve your stuff. It's okay against Lotus Field. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I think Slaughter Games is a one-off in the deck's perfectly justifiable at any time. So right now, especially, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like, yeah, I think this build's very clean. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I like a lot. I like my sideboard a lot right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the sideboard's more interesting, right? Because your main's pretty stock. It's always like plus or minus like 2 or 3 cards. But yeah, let's talk about the sideboard then. So, Campbell, I think it's great.
Campbell has been so good for me.
Yeah,
So
Campbell
good.
is horrendous for like spell, like considering like the amount of decks try to storm off. Campbell is like a real problem. And then you've got opposite that Ghost Council. Want to explain that?
Yeah, I was playing this card because of the black red decks.
Yeah.
The only run red board that can kill this, but it's not going to kill that because red bar is never going to stay in play, right? You're going to always flicker it. So it was more hedging to that.
Yep.
I think it's a card I was just trying out. It's a bit hard to cast as well. Yes,
Yeah.
I didn't perform it. I didn't perform that well, so I cut it for the next tournament.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
But this card is much like Blood Bottom of Scope. If you see that the meta game can't kill this, you can play it technically.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Yeah. And Arlen the Pack's Hope.
Oh yeah, I'm playing. I have been like this card quite a lot. Like she's pretty good against blue white control. Because like if you can resolve her, the ability of playing creatures with flash is pretty valuable.
Yeah, agreed.
She's also like against blue white. it's going to be night very often, so you cannot use her to attack.
Yeah.
To make mana. I think the card's a solid role player, and I often switch her out with Nahiri when I'm playing as creature decks because making 2 blockers is better than what Nahiri does.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think the Planeswalker. I think it's a good Planeswalker. I just think like the kind of like Gruul Planeswalkers have never really been able to find a home out with like Gruul midrange. Just the
Yeah.
color combination doesn't come up too often in Pioneer. But yeah, I think Arlen's a good Planeswalker.
She also
It's just
has the Tolsimir synergy because Tolsimir triggers on any wolf.
yeah, exactly. Tolsimir's such a nice card. Like
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
good having access to that instant speed. Like it just like single-handedly changes the direction of like any aggro matchup.
Yeah,
Tolsimir's
usually
just great.
I have been playing Giganta lately, but I think that with the update in Monorad, I wanted to respect the deck, so Tolsimir goes back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
No, I
think
think it's
that's
a good
mostly it.
choice.
Like I like how the sideboard doubles, like it covers all your bases. Like this is the sideboard is good against Phoenix. The sideboard is good against Ascendancy, and the sideboard is also gives you a chance to beat Lotus Field and Blue Eyes
Yeah.
because
I agree.
most of the same tools overlap.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a good build. Good build.
Yeah, I got
So
unlucky because I got into the top 8 and the first match I played against was Kane.
yeah.
But if I got into the other side of the bracket and I got paired against the Black Red X, I think I had a good shot of winning the tournament.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think literally Kane was like the only matchup that was like
Really bad for me.
really bad.
Yeah.
So let's discuss. So we had Tunak win with the Yorion
What?
build. I think I seen them talk about it in on Twitter.
Mm.
Um
I think this is the exact list that's about to play in the PT.
yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it. Congrats to Tunak for
Yeah.
winning with it, but like yeah. Second
Yeah.
place we've got Gobble 2009. So I conceded to them. Spoiler alert, I top 8 at this event. But I conceded to them. I 6-0'd the Swiss and then just insta conceded, but I seen they played a basic island. So I thought they might have been on Phoenix, but surprise, they're on the
Didn't do
this
that.
yeah.
Playing Jace Fiend's Prodigy. Interesting.
I think Jace is an underplayed card, but I don't really like it in most of the decks that don't play Thoughtseize. I think Jace is quite nice in like a blue black X deck. Um, I less I don't like it as much in these kind of decks. But I mean, you play a lot of cantrips, and it feels like you can play Dig for Time, or you can more importantly, you can play Days Undoing from the Graveyard Expressive Iteration. So yeah,
That has to be good
maybe
against Blue White, I guess, because
yeah,
like you have
because
a
it's
lot of dead cards against Blue Whites.
yeah, and it's kind of like a must answer for them a lot of the time.
Yeah. All right.
And you've got Hero Sukai, the mono blue spirit one trick, in third place. Fair enough to them. They play this deck all the time. They're starting to get some results
This
with it.
deck is so annoying to play against. So
Yeah,
you say
it's
that we notice is annoying to play against. I hate playing against this deck.
yeah. This deck is so like if you're playing any blue deck, this deck is such a nightmare. It's just so like. But funnily enough, they must have lost against one of the blue decks then, I guess. Because the two
I
blue
think they
decks made
got
the
paired
final.
against the. I think they got paired against the blue red deck, and they can never beat this, right?
Yeah, they can never beat Niv Mizzet Perun, right? They just die.
Yeah, like they have Fiend Dice and like a lot of burn spells,
Yeah.
ice, mystical disputes, rending
Yeah.
volley. Like, how can you beat
Yeah.
this with mono blue spirits?
Yeah. So, what's your thoughts on this deck, Claudio? Honestly,
I think it's good like when the meta game is pretty slow, but yeah, we might be in that spot. But I think if you get paired into stuff like we notice seems pretty difficult.
and any red deck, right? Because like
Yeah, like
your
the red decks
threats
are
are so
playing.
bad into the red burn spells. Like I don't know. I think this deck is like
Hmm.
good against like blue decks, basically in theory. Like most of the blue decks that are not playing like if
I'm not sure even great against Phoenix. Like probably not.
it can't really be right. Like
Other creatures die to shock. I don't know. I'm not a believer.
Whatever the case, Hiro Sukai managed to get third place with it, so fair enough to them. Good job. I don't rate the deck. I think it's a tier 2 strategy. Good. If
It's
good.
kind of like how this other spirit stacks. Like they're
Yeah.
floating around. They're going to do well from time to time.
Yep.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then in fourth place, we've got the luckiest boy that ever existed. How did you top 8 from that? You were like there was 104 players, right? Claudio was
Yeah.
like, you were X2 from 4-2 onwards, right?
Yeah.
So you won the last round. You were 14th,
14th. Yeah. I
and then
jumped. I jumped
you
seven
jumped
position.
7 places.
Yeah.
Holy
I
shit!
don't know, man. I just know that it happens. My
Yeah.
tiebreakers were looking pretty green, but I got there.
Oh my
I,
God. I jumped back onto Claudio's stream to see his face when he was just like smirking and laughing. Like you just couldn't believe he top eighted. I was like, bro, what?
yeah.
Because I was basically locked for top eight. I like 6-0 and conceded. So I was just like, Claudio, man, decent run, top eighted yesterday. And then
Yeah,
like
I
I
think
checked I
I
checked
think this is
again and
like
then
the same list. I only changed out the Obzadat for Lavinia
yeah.
because, as I said, Obzadat didn't perform very well, and I wanted something against Lotus Field because I played against the deck twice.
Hmm.
So I wanted to try this. I'm not sure if it's good or not, but I played against the deck 0 times, so the jury is still out in that.
Cool.
Not
Lavinia's
much to
very nice.
say. Like I lost in the Swiss to Inota because I think I got greedy in in some spots in game 3, but I beat the same
Yeah.
player on the top 8s, and my other loss was to mm, I don't remember, but I think it was some kind of control deck.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think Lavinia is definitely worth trying out in your deck. Like you just need like a silver bullet that can be searchable or cast like from like
Yeah,
Niv
like
Mizzet. So
I think the key is to have multiple different things
mhm.
because it covers you from blast zone and it
Yeah.
covers you from
Well,
yeah
Otawara, right? Because
yeah
like you can have
and like
Kambal
Otawara.
and
Yeah, because
Lavinia on the battlefield, and
yeah.
like they can't like get rid of both of them. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
So yeah,
so yep, I think I have been feeling pretty good about the deck.
yeah, good job.
Yeah, okay. So this
Um,
was the Winota player.
yep, Blade Historian. What?
Yeah, they're
Is that
playing.
the 2/3? Yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen people playing this card. Makes some sense, I guess. Like you're
yeah,
never
got killed
casting
by
it.
this
You're
in the
never casting
Swiss.
it.
I think
There's
you cast it some amount of the time. It's not
like
impossible.
turn 10. Like, geez.
No, not really. You have some treasures, right? So
Oh
if
yeah,
you
Fable the Mirror Breaker and the Prosperous Innkeeper, I guess.
yeah, if you're conscious about what side you're putting your pathways on, I think you can cast this a reasonable amount of the time. But you have to be careful with your lands.
Yep. I don't even know who I Love You is. I think they turn up from time to time. I think I haven't seen them in a while, in fairness. But I guess like maybe they're like one of these kind of paper magic players that will only use. Some people just use Modo as a way to test,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense. Like I think people kind of go paper first, Modo second. But like if they need to get a lot of concentrated reps in, they'll jump back onto Modo. Much like my friend has done recently. They're
Yeah,
playing they've kind of looked at Canister's list and kind of taken it as the shell and then like made some tweaks
I think
accordingly.
this is kind of underexplored playing some planeswalkers in the sideboard.
Yeah,
I think this could be a nice direction for the deck. But
yeah,
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 I think
definitely.
pretty stock stuff here. Deck's pretty good.
Yep.
Here we
So,
have our old man himself.
yep. So I managed to top eight.
Oh,
I played an interesting build of four color ascendancy. So basically I disregarded the deck once blue white became good because the matchup was just unwinnable. Could not beat that deck. Could not beat the deck with the Gigantha build. Then I seen Canister top eight the showcase with the dig through time build with no Gigantha. And it basically just like opened a can of worms for me. I was thinking like if Canister's playing it, then there must be some merit to it. Twinless Twin he was like advocating it for a while, well before anyone even considered that as to be an option. Like it just felt for the most part like the Gigantha was so important, even just to bring to hand to discard to keep the Jeskai Sensei like fuel burning. But once I started playing this, I actually realized like it was great. Like not having Gigantha and playing Dig for Time. I played against Blue White Control multiple times in leagues, and I was winning. I was winning the matches like consistently. So basically, I tweaked Canister's build a little bit. I felt like 4 Dig for Times was unnecessary, especially when you have access to like Narset. So I wanted to go for a 3-1 split with Narset Dig for Time because I think Narset's just like incidentally very good. It's just like so good in certain matchups that it's almost free. So I like the 3-1 split. It also hedges against like people bringing in like multiple copies of Rest in Peace if for whatever reason they want to do that. I brought Fiery Impulse over Flame Blessed Bolt. The Rakdos mid-range deck is getting played a lot more. And the what's the 4/3? The rat that brings back a Parhelion.
Grisfang?
Yeah, Greasefang's getting played as well. So I wanted to have like a card that could potentially be like nice instant speed, because one of the biggest problems with this deck is the lack of instant speed removal. I took out March of the Otherworldly Light. I don't think that card's very good in the deck. You don't have enough white sources. And I just felt like it was quite a clunk. It just became quite a clunky removal spell. Not a lot of people were playing cards like Deafening Silence anymore, so there wasn't really a reason to have it in the deck, because it was the good thing about it was good against those kind of like one-offs. Um, so yep, and then in the main, it was trying to Spell Pierce. I like the idea against like the Wandering Emperor, and the Mystical Dispute, just to have a bit of like game one interaction. A lot of this was with Blue White Control in mind. Post board, I've got some interesting choices. I opted to increase the number of Omnaths in the board, and I opted to play Bone Crusher Giants in the board. So basically, like what this was for taking into consideration the mono red deck. I feel like the matchup is kind of tough. If they play like an early Eidolon, it gets really difficult. But having options like Omnath and Bone Crusher Giant, I felt like Bone Crusher Giant is really good against that deck. Like obviously, like max upside is like stomping an Eidolon and playing it turn 3, kind of like brick walls all their creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if they get to like even if you block a Soul Scar and they shock it in response, like who cares? Like you just took 2 points, you took 4 points of damage and traded with one of like with 2 of their spells. So and then Omnath is just great. Like you play that and play a land, more often than not the game's over at that point. Just trying out a couple of things. I felt like Silence. I've seen a lot of the decks playing 2 copies of Silence. I don't think Silence is that good. I think it's good in a world where everyone else is playing Ascendancy. But apart from that, like I don't even know if you even want 1 copy, because now you can play cards like potentially like Narset's Reversal, which I think is probably better overall, but I'm not too sure. Um, I'm trying out Hullbreaker Horror because now you can. After playing, it's maybe a little bit too slow. So the jury's out with Hullbreaker right now. Like I'm not convinced, but I'm not. I don't think I've played it. I've
I
not
think I
played
saw
it enough.
Cancer saying that against Blue White Control he would rather have more Hermits because he thought the card was really good.
So yes, Malevolent Hermit is the pretty much the best counter spell in the deck from practice, especially in the matchups that you really want it, Blue White Control, because like it just like they can't counter your counter spell, and then you have the option to bring it back, and they have to deal with it or counter that. So like you just like take up, it just uses up quite a lot of resources, and I think that kind of swings the matchup. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, maybe in practice, like the Hullbreaker Horror isn't needed, and you play like the 3 Malevolent Hermits. I think that's an option you can try. I cut down on fries. I don't think you need 2 fries in the deck. Like you had 2 fries because you needed an answer to Narset if your opponent resolved it with the previous builds, but now with the current builds, you don't really need it. The fry is actually more for like if you're playing against Winota than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of happy playing with 1. I played about with like 1 Dispute, 1 Spell Pierce on the board. Probably will. I th- I'm not convinced with Spell Pierce now. Um, I may I may just cut down and play the Hermits, because they kind of do the same thing against like the Emperor.
Yeah.
Um, and Monastery Mentor as always is a house. It's just an absolute house. I'd consider playing 3 copies again, but like I think 2 is fine. But yeah, overall, I beat a multitude of different decks. I beat like the blue red control deck with Days Undoing. I beat like mono red, beat Winota, beat like just like a myriad of different strategies. Deck just felt really good all weekend. In the quarters, I lost to mono blue spirits. I think that matchup was really bad. Most of your removals, sorcery speed. It's
Yeah,
just
you
I
just asked me to
managed.
get Rattle Chains into the moon.
Yeah, it's just really difficult. Like, and you can't really answer the Faceless Haven. Like, you have 2
Oh yeah,
fire
that's
impulse.
so annoying.
Yeah, so like I just found that I just got kind of like ground out that match, which is fine. I didn't plan on beating mono blue spirits. I'm happy to lose that every time. I don't expect that deck to ever show up in reasonable numbers. It'll probably be like 1 to 2% of a meta at any given time. So yeah, no, I was happy. I liked my build. I'd make a few
Yeah,
changes going
I
forward,
like the
but
sideboard creatures.
yeah.
I think it's nice
So
to change it up things in the deck once in a while so people don't
yeah,
get too comfortable.
yeah. I think you and I are the
Uh,
same. Like you always have to keep moving, always innovate.
we're on
You'll
in seventh place. We have Phoenix with the main deck Jace. Interesting.
um
I think
I
this
don't
addresses a little bit the problem of being threat lights.
yeah, I
People
agree.
are,
I think
people are not going to expect this game one.
yep, and I think so. From playing a lot of Inverter, I was really impressed by how good Jace was in its own right. Like, like an Inverter, like you could just board out the combo and just win with Jace a lot of the time. It was so
Mhm.
good. Um, um, I would happily play a copy of Jace. Is it correct? Don't know. Don't know. Maybe not. But in this instance, yeah. The only
Actually,
issue
go up to
is,
3 Jace post bars.
yeah. So you're just basically like a self-mill deck almost. It makes sense. Playing one young pyromancer, I'm not convinced with that. I think you need to have like a couple just to like maximize like having a threat on turn 2. 3 Soul Guide Lanterns interesting. They're
Is
probably
this good in
expecting
the
the mirror.
mirror?
It has to be, right? Like
No,
snag.
no, no. I'm generally asking.
I think it must be right. If like you can snipe a phoenix, it doesn't hurt, right? I think it's more for Greasefang because Mardu Greasefang was like played a lot recently.
I don't think it is for that deck. Like I think you are already pretty good answering
That's
the
true.
combo.
You have a lot. You have a lot of answers to it. In fairness,
Yeah, pretty
um,
interesting builds.
like,
Some
and
differences here, right?
yeah, it's always good to see people innovating. So that's fair. An interesting Phoenix build for
The
sure.
shutter school smashing that you don't see very
Yep.
often.
Think that card's
I think that
underplayed.
people stopped playing Spikefield Hazard, which is something I don't really like. It's pretty nice to grab lands off your
Yeah,
beasts.
I think Spikefield is very relevant in a world of Winota as well. Obviously, your matchup should be fine, but like, doesn't help to have a little bit extra, right? Because sometimes like they still just get under you, right? Like, I don't know. I think Spikefield was very nice to have a one of. So
Yep. Okay. And eighth place we have another Lurrus deck. I think pretty much the same stock build we have come to see.
yeah,
Ley Line of Sanctity. This is a pretty sneaky one. If you're playing like Black Red, you can
yeah,
get got by this if you don't have an answer like Feed the Swarm. If I'm playing Black Red, I always sideboard in Feed the Swarm against Lotus Field just because of they might have this card and you need to be able to play Totses against them.
yeah, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I
So
think that's it for the tournaments of this weekend.
yeah. So closing thoughts. Where do you think we could be headed? What are you thinking?
I think that blue white control is winding down, right? We like the deck was being very popular for a while, but I think things are winding down a little bit. The black red decks are seeing more play, but I think the meta is in a pretty healthy place, to be honest.
It's constantly in a state of flux, right? Like Pioneer's always moving, and this is why like we really emphasize the importance of innovating because like no 2 weeks are the same in Pioneer, and it's been true. I think like from the past like while, I think like overall, I still think Phoenix is probably like best deck in a vacuum, but not by any significant margin where it can't easily be like answered. Um, in my opinion, I think like the decks Claudio and I both played this weekend were good. Obviously results biased, but like in theory they would be good. Um, I think Nev is in a good place. I really like Ascendancy, the way it's been currently built going forward. I mean, it absolutely destroys the red black anvil deck. I think it's good against Phoenix. It's pretty close against Winota. Like it's pretty even. The blue white control matchup is winnable again. I think the Lotusfield matchup's winnable, and
Yeah, now we're seeing Phoenix show up again a lot for the most part. Like not a lot, but the deck was kind of not doing very well for a while. But I think now that blue white is like receding, you're going to see more Phoenix because that was a pretty bad matchup. Yeah, but yeah, there's also going to be a new set released in a month, so
I'm very excited. It's going to have a
there's
massive,
probably going to be a shakeup just because of the trials, but it looks like the set is going to be powerful.
Yeah, and this is going to have a massive shakeup in Pioneer. This is going to be one of the biggest shakeups I think from a set in a while. I think the triomes coming is just massive. It opens the doors to so many different strategies now. It'll
I
be
think
really
at the very
interesting.
least, for example, the first deck you can kind of try is like Grixis, right?
Yeah, Grixis has basically been banished to the Shadow Realm because of the mana base. Same with Esper, right? Esper control could definitely be a thing.
I always thought that for a while, but now that Blue White has the tools it has,
maybe not.
Not sure. I'm not sure if it's even worth it to do that, but yeah, it's possible to build Esper now.
Yeah, and like Jund, like an actual Jund kind of like
mid-rangey deck.
Mid-range, yeah. Like there's just so many. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Can play like Glowfist, some
good cards. It looks like this. Normally, when you see sets with these kind of charms, it kind of shapes up to be a powerful set, right? Like I think these like charms are going to be like potentially impactful as well. So it's really interesting to see.
I think we can do like a brewing or a spoiler review
Bro,
episode in the future.
How are you going to build this Niv mana base now?
People ask me about this all the time, and I have no idea. I have to start working on that. Like this is going to be a nightmare to tune. Like I spent so much time to arrive here, but now I'm going to have to look at everything again.
Bro, your whole world has been turned upside down with these new lands. Like mine is as well, man. Like this is the thing. Like obviously the thing is they're going to be so expensive in paper because there's going to be such a high demand for
the Claudio ones are already spiking price because of how excited people are about Pioneer. Like the Winota cards, for example, were sold out. So
yeah, and I think Ikoria was heavily under opened because it came out during COVID.
During COVID, yeah.
Yeah, I've got some Ikoria triomes. I hope my friend hasn't sold yet for me because like I probably need them, and also yeah, want to make bank. Yeah, my plan is basically regarding that is to just like decide like within a month like how likely I am to play a strategy and just lock it in for paper. And unless something like drastically changes, obviously the new set is going to drastically change things, but I might just pick up Ascendancy. Like I love the deck so much, and I think it's almost always got like a good it's like good enough to be able to play against like most of the field.
Yeah, but I think if you start with this, you can move into other decks later if you want. It's like a solid land base. You have some stuff here.
Yeah, or I might just buy the Lotus Field like structure deck and just kind of like.
Yeah, that deck is pretty good. I hear to upgrade because apparently it has most of the cards you need in there.
Yeah, so I think I might just get one of them and just spend like a couple of £100 or something, 100 or so. But yeah,
yep.
So
sounds good, man. I think we are going to be back. We might do like a episode before the next set drops, and we are definitely going to be doing like set review episode because it looks like the set's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a set review. We'll probably do a wrap up of this season in a couple of weeks. Just basically give our thoughts on like what was the top decks overall and like yeah, and just kind of see where the challenge is. But we'll be playing. I mean, we're in the league. We're in the challenge streets. I only ever play one challenger weekend, the Sunday Pioneer Challenge or any of the big Pioneer events. But Claudio's out in the streets 2 times a weekend, so we'll we might even play a last chance qualifier. One of us might be in the showcase. Who knows? But yeah, this has been this has been a long one, so we'll wrap it up here. But if you've got this far, thanks so much for watching, and yeah, consider subscribing to the TAC Team Patreon if you haven't already. If you have, thanks very much, and hope to see you all next time.
Yeah, sounds good, man. That's what Martin said. That we are the best place to get your pioneer content. So give us a chance there. And yep, signing off.
Bye bye.